What's up, everybody? It's Taylor Twellman from Major League Soccer and Apple TV. As we head into the international break, the MLS Cup playoffs knockout round stage is now set, both in the West and Eastern conferences. The only series in the West that surprised anyone was ironically the top seed, which is the theme of this year's playoffs. LAFC were taken to a third game by the Vancouver Whitecaps, and it took a tactical shift from head coach Steve Cherundolo to get them by. It's crazy to think that that is now the fifth time in 2 years that the Whitecaps have been knocked out of a competition by LAFC. As for the East, well, let's go. Twellman's takes. The most shocking upset in MLS history just happened. There was a 34-point difference between Atlanta United and Inter Miami in the regular season standings. Atlanta United went into the final game of the regular season with only a 10% chance of making the playoffs. Miami went into the final game of the regular season, and they set a record for the most points in regular season history. Now keep in mind, mid-season, Atlanta United sold their two best attacking players, Thiago Almada and Yorgos Giacomakis. And so Miami lost, not once, but twice. Brad Guzan was arguably better in Game 3 than he was in Game 1, with some of the most ridiculous touches and saves you'll ever see. Miami was so frustrated, they tried to bully him into his own goal, pushing him into the net after Messi scored a header, and yet that still didn't stop him from propelling Atlanta United to the next round. But the bigger point is this. Remember, when the season started, Messi, Suarez, and Tata Martino started talking about winning 4 trophies. They started the conversation. I didn't. But from that point forward, someone kept receipts. I said winning 1 trophy would be a stretch, and here we are. The best team in regular season history. The first team to have 2 20-goal scorers. Remarkable feats. But this is the most complete and deepest roster in MLS history. And yet you lose in the first round to a team that barely got into the playoffs. Tata Martino called it a failure. Dead on. And the rumors have been swirling for weeks about the manager of Inter Miami in 2025. And that was way before the biggest upset in MLS playoff history happened. This roster, this team, it's going to look a lot different. So many players and their futures are up in the air. Campana, Suarez, Gressel, Taylor, and the cast of characters on loan. They may be playing elsewhere. But while I'm at it, Jordi Alba, you didn't lose because of the format. You lost because this team could not defend in transition all season long. And Atlanta knew it, and they had your number. So much so that Messi played 90 minutes in 18 games in 2024, and Miami only lost 3 times. All 3 of those to Atlanta United. Ouch. Last year, FC Cincinnati won the Supporters' Shield, and they were led by one of the best individual seasons ever from Luciano Acosta. This year, they look to be even better, having signed free agent center back Miles Robinson. They had a motivated Matt Miazga coming back after flaming out of the playoffs at home when they were up 2-0, and they lost to the eventual winners, their rivals, Columbus Crew. They started hot. They won 15 of the first 22 games, and that included a 6-1 victory over Inter Miami at home. They looked to be potential Supporters' Shield winners back-to-back. And then Miazga got hurt, and the season spiraled, and they won only 3 of the last 12 games. And Acosta only contributes to 7 goals in that span. It is a well-known fact now that FC Cincinnati protected Acosta, who is dealing with some stuff personally, and they did everything and then some to try and accommodate he and his family to help him, while also keeping the team afloat. But they lose to New York City in penalties at home in the playoffs, and after the game, he completely opens Pandora's box regarding his future and how the club changed everything after the season. Am I taking crazy pills? This was his quote. "Today I played a game I may remember as my last one with the club. A lot of the things the club did hurt me, and they hurt a lot. To go from having an incredible year winning the Supporters' Shield and then leaving a lot of the players aside." End quote. Hang on a minute here. This is as selfish and irrational as I've ever seen from a captain of any team. Did we not forget about your performance with the 2-0 lead at home versus Columbus in the playoffs last year, Luciano? What did the club do exactly? New contract, more money. They solidified the back line because you won't defend, and they gave you space when you needed to address things personally while not saying a single thing publicly. If I'm FC Cincinnati and I get the number 9 right, which sounds like they're going to be spending $15 million plus on a player, and they actually find a replacement for the number 10 or a winger, I'm moving on from Luciano Acosta, and I'm not looking back. They need to be more well-rounded in the attack, and they haven't been since Acosta didn't like every other attacking player they had. Oh yeah, that's right, Luciano. They didn't say that publicly either. Because Miami and Columbus and their debacles in the first round, hosting MLS Cup is now in the hands of LAFC, or the LA Galaxy. Whoever makes the final will host MLS Cup. And if those two fall flat on their face, then it's either Seattle or Orlando. But let's stay with the Galaxy. They're the best team at home in all of MLS. Better than Miami, Columbus, and even LAFC. But they lost the number 1 seed in the final day, which means when they face Minnesota United on November 24th, they will know where they will be if they win. It will be at LAFC or at home against the Seattle Sounders. The Galaxy were the better team against LAFC in 2 of the 3 games this year, and the scoreline showed it. But the one game they weren't was at BMO. They were second best that day, and they know that they want revenge. What a treat that could be. El Tráfico in the Western Conference Final. But first, the MLS Cup playoffs return on Apple TV on November 23rd with the Hudson River Derby at 5:30 p.m. Eastern when New York City hosts the New York Red Bulls, followed by the marquee matchup, LAFC hosting the Seattle Sounders, the two clubs that have defined the Western Conference for the last 4 or 5 seasons. But the Sounders have lost all 3 against them in 2024. They've given up 8 and only scored 1. 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time on November 23rd. Will they get revenge? This and all of this, including Sunday's doubleheader with Orlando hosting Atlanta United and the Galaxy playing Minnesota United, all on MLS Season Pass on Apple TV.